Hello, I am Sri Sitaram. On behalf of Amicus Brain, I welcome you all. So Amicus Brain Innovations is a digital health technology startup focused on bringing the power of artificial intelligence technology to transform care management for people living with neurodegenerative disorders. So we are about making technology solutions available to everyone to reduce caregiver stresses, increase self-efficacy, and to enable people living with dementia to remain at home longer. So today we bring you our Living Well with Dementia series, where we share stories by persons living with Alzheimer's disease and other related dementias, stories that provide a broader perspective on the realities of their lives, stories of challenges, inspiration, and determination, and celebrate what someone with dementia can achieve. In honor of the Women's History Month, we are delighted to have with us Nancy Nelson and Kat Hartley, who believe in the power of an embraced, supported dementia community. They are the co-founders of Dangle Dot, a social enterprise that dares to do dementia different by creating new opportunities for people living with dementia to live well. The event will be facilitated by Amicus Brain's Dementia Advisor, Geeta Iyer, and a request to all the participants, as you listen, please use the chat to share your experiences, make your comments, and raise questions. So we will get to the questions towards the end of our discussion. Now, over to you, Geeta. Thank you.
Thank you, Sri. Hi, Nancy and Kat. So delighted to meet you both. I've been looking forward to this. Glad to be here because it looked a bit doubtful for a bit there. So I think I've been doing, this is the third conversation as part of Amicus Brain's Living with Dementia series. And each story has been enlightening and eye-opening for a couple of reasons. One is, most people, including myself, we believe that dementia is something that occurs really late in your life. There's not much that's known about early onset. And second, you guys make dementia look very happy, you can. So I think living that you can have a glorious life despite this difficult diagnosis. So, and each story is different, each dementia experience is different. So I'm learning each time and I'm eager to learn from both of you. So I'll start with Nancy. Welcome. And so Nancy, can you tell us about your life before the diagnosis and what led you to get diagnosed and seek a diagnosis at all?
Well, thank you. And thank you for having us this morning. We're so delighted to be here with you. My dad passed in 2002 with complications from Alzheimer's, and I didn't really know a lot about it. We didn't live anywhere close to one another, and circumstances were such that I really didn't get to know all the ins and outs of what he was experiencing. You probably can't see him, but he sits on my shoulder today. And so I have him with me because that was back in 2002. And, they didn't do as much talking about it back then as they do now, for sure. And he didn't, and I do, for both of us. So there you go. I was 69 when I got my first diagnosis of early onset Alzheimer's. I was very, I didn't know much about it, but I also wanted my girls, I have 2 daughters and 4 grandchildren, and I wanted them, I didn't know about my dad, and I didn't want my children to, I knew I had a problematic issues. I would be driving down a street and couldn't connect the streets. These are streets that I had traveled on for 40 years. So I knew, and I would forget. And, people would call and they'd, say, where are you? Are you coming? And it would just hit me like that. So I knew I had to do something. And so I believe in being active. And so I took my 2 children in tow with me and we went to find out about Alzheimer's. 3 years after the initial diagnosis, I was re-diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment. I saw no change. Nothing changed within me, just titles. I have never paid much attention to the titles. I don't own them. It's kind of like they belong to somebody else. I don't have them, but I'm aware. So I became very active. I wanted to speak for people who couldn't speak for themselves, and for my dad who did not. And that's how I got started. And it changed my life because I thought that at 70, I would work another 10 years. I was in insurance, and I'd get a call from somebody and they'd say, "Hi, I was with you yesterday. I can't quite remember." And I'm thinking, oh gosh, I don't remember either. And I just knew with each step that I needed to pay attention. So, and then Miss Kat and I became friends. I'll let you tell that story.
So, Kat, just an introduction, how you got interested in, advocating for dementia, and what your profession is, and so forth.
Certainly. Well, I first met the face of Alzheimer's disease, dementia, when I was 6. I'd gone to a train station to pick up my grandparents who were traveling across the country with my dad, and Grandpa gets off the train and he looked at my dad and said, sonny boy, I don't know where I am." And my dad was perplexed and he said, "Well, you're home, Dad, you're home." And my grandfather asked that question at 58. He had been a very successful businessman, very well-to-do, and that began our family journey with Alzheimer's disease. We lost him very rapidly, but then next was my grandmother, his wife, and she had a long, 15 years of Alzheimer's disease. And in that time, our family experienced all the caregiver issues you could name. Remote, family squabbling, attorneys who took her, unscrupulous business people who took her money because she was unable to really care for her finances, and we didn't have the protections. She wound up in long-term care. She was ultimately, tethered to a bed at the end. And that really, as a granddaughter, set my journey into, I'm not letting this happen to anyone else, because she was a beautiful woman, had traveled the world, dressed to the nines, and to imagine that was the end result. But it turned out that wasn't the end. My uncle had Alzheimer's disease, then my father. And then we've just lost another uncle, and another one has been diagnosed. So we've had the long family journey, and that dedicated my career to making a difference. I worked at the FDA. I was a pharmacist. I worked in drug development, and now I work at the Cleveland Clinic, Lee Ruvo Center for Brain Health, in our research and educating people about lifestyle and brain health connection, and also the importance of participating in trials, clinical trials.
Wow.
Yeah.
So inspired, and we just got started.
And I'm a care partner now for a special needs brother and my mom at home. So I've had lots of caregiving experience.
She's extraordinary.
That's just amazing. So Nancy, I've seen, your videos and some of your interviews, and what strikes me is there's so much humor, in your
Yes.
conversations. And I think in one of them, I said, "How did I get here?" Right? I took the wrong turn and somewhere, and I'm suddenly a poet, and I'm a playwright, and I'm doing so many things. I'm a businesswoman, you're doing all of this, and I think you're changing the world. You're changing so many lives, and it is difficult. It is still, dementia is not something you cannot sugarcoat it, and you cannot tell people that it's always happy and hunky-dory. How was it when you received the diagnosis? Because from what I've heard, typically people, they go through a period of acceptance and denial, and then acceptance, they're depressed, anxiety, and how am I going to do this? And because your life changes. How can you tell us about that and how you got here?
Sure. Well, it's a blur how I got here. I just put one foot in front of the other. I've always sort of been that kind of person. And it's dramatic, isn't it? I mean, you know, my youngest daughter was with me the day that we found out. And as we're opening the door to the doctor's office, she turned around and looked at me and she says, Mom, do you really want to know? She said, you're 70 years old. You're bound to forget things. And 70 years old, and you know, and my kids think that it's okay that I can't remember, but it's I just opened the door and we went in, and we really were high-fiving one another. We knew this was a walk in the park, that there was nothing going to be wrong. I'm a well person all my life, and so I was blown away when that doctor turned around and said, you have early onset Alzheimer's. I was blown away. I should have perhaps recognized that that might have been what I would hear, but I didn't. And it took me a few minutes to catch my breath. By that, I mean, you know, it was a quiet ride home because we were so sure that isn't not what we were going to hear. And I started waking up the next day. All of a sudden, these words at 3 a.m., dark in the morning, these words are just pelting down. I'm writing them on paper. And it was a way for me to journal my indecision, my, oh, heck no, my why me, all of the things that one feels when they get a diagnosis. And most of the time, or a lot of times when we get a diagnosis, we don't get any help up front. We get the diagnosis and it's all bad, like, wow. So, so the writing became a journaling process for me. So I have written 3 poem books, and it's in poems because I can't do long sentences. They need to be short and poignant, you know, you know, quite honestly. So, and so it was a way for me to tell my story. And so each book is a little bit different because times change and people change, and I'm no different than that. You're right when you say, gosh, you know, you can make funny little jokes, and we do. We want to make it light and airy. It is a choice to do that. Mm-hmm. You know, each day is not glorious. There are days when I think, oh gosh, I'm doing really good. I don't have anything to worry about. And that's the day that I'll do something that's totally crazy. And I'll say, okay, there you go. Right? Mm-hmm. There you go. And it cha-chings. And then I, you know, you shallow and and then I have to say to myself, hey, pull up those big girl panties. You know, you can do this. You can do it. And so that's why we bumped into one another. We became friends, and we thought, what can we do? And so we thought we could bring some smiles to it with respect. We want to be real careful. We're not treading on anyone. Nobody's in the same place, as you say, and it's different for everyone. And we mean no disrespect. Mm-hmm. But the deal is that you can choose to laugh or you can choose to sit and cry. And I'm going to choose laughter and making fun of it just a little, poke at it just a little.
No, beautifully said. And I like what that you said, you have a choice, right? You have a choice to live happily, you know, despite the circumstance, which rise about it, and that it can create options for yourself. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that is, I think, really important to know and learn. So Kat, this is a question for both of you, but I'll start with Kat. You know, you talked about, you know, what you saw with in your family, you know, Alzheimer's in your family, and what you saw in your grandmother and so forth. What, you know, often for me too, now I'm very passionate about advocating, and I'm, you know, just learning about dementia and having conversations and making connections with people like you. What, you know, not everybody, people are different. There are people who, you know, I'm done with this and it's been a hard journey. What made you so passionate, you know, to advocate and to do the work that you're doing together and separately?
Well, I guess I'm a naturally very positive person, and I just believe in, I don't know, learning about yourself through these tough challenges, I guess. I look at each family member that I lost and where I was as a child or a teenager and saying, gosh, this has got to be better. There has to be more answers. And that just kind of fueled my purpose, if you will, in my own life. And honestly, my care of my father was the most painful. And I realize now how avoidant I was of even kind of visiting. I was a little further away. And when I would go visit, it was so shockingly painful to see him because it was not who he was. He was never sick. He was the most joyful man in the room and experienced this. But what I can do with the bundling up that pain is to help others who are experiencing that kind of pain. And really on a personal, lived experience level, understand what they're going through, but also ways you can make it a little better, a little softer, learn from it, heal relationships.
Yes.
Create out of it. Bring some joy back into the everyday and try to work through those painful emotions of grief and loss that happen on this journey.
So, so Nancy, the same thing. You're doing a lot of work in this area as well. So, what are some of the with the people, other people in this situation, both care partners and people living with dementia? What are some of the challenges that you're seeing? Also, what were some of the challenges you yourself experienced, in terms of resources or just the stigma, lack of awareness?
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you've seen, and have you been able to influence some of these and change some of these in your work?
I was diagnosed originally in 2013. And in 2018, I received an award for Senior Citizen of the Year due to the volunteer work that I did. And it took that honor for me to take a minute and just say, wow, is that really true? I mean, what the wonderful things I heard in that couple-hour luncheon the room was filled and the buzz was, but it took that for me to say, maybe I am making a difference. But up until that point, I really am just putting one foot in front of the other and wanting to make life a little bit better for someone else. And better maybe, when we talk about our fathers, better maybe because my situation was that I didn't get to see my dad. And so you wished you'd done something different. And I'm here to say, the different that you can do is to turn around and look at it. Don't look at dementia or Alzheimer's or a neurodegenerative something. Don't look at that as something that you can bury your head under the pillow and think that it's going to be okay. No, you are much better. I have found for myself that because I help others, I have a different persona of myself and of others about, hey, we can make a difference. We can do something different. And it does not have to be as egregious as we hear or read or see. It's been, I say, I find joy in the diagnosis. That sounds crazy, doesn't it? And a little bit sadistic, huh? But I have found such joy because helping other people is really why we're here. And so I pick up the gauntlet for my dad and myself and others and Kat's family and friends and say, hey, come with us. Just look at it differently. Yes. Maybe it won't change your mind, but what if it does?
Right.
And we go to these, I'm going to get in trouble here. We go to a doctor for their expertise. Okay. And so when someone says to you, well, this is as good as it's going to get with a diagnosis, I say, whoa, wait a minute. It can get so much better. You just have to know a way. And hopefully that we are that pathway that says, look, maybe you could do this. And you think you can't, because the longer we sit and don't do anything, the worse it all gets.
Yeah, and that's what you talk about, daring to do dementia different, right? And
don't just
also,
talk about it. Do.
There's,
I
yeah.
said I didn't mean to interrupt you, Geeta, but don't just talk about it. Don't just give word service. Step up and do something. That's where the change comes inside, right?
Right. And we believe in actionable hope, right? It's not just hoping things are going to get better. There's going to be steps you can take, whether it's education, becoming part of a support groups, learning, sharing your story, using poetry, using art, using ways that you can, as you always say, digest what you've been told, right? And then how are you going to come out anew? How are you going to be a good caregiver? How are you going to care well for yourself and your loved one in this journey too? And I mean, I guess we're lived experience. We can easily say that we have cared for people. I have held someone's hand to the very end. And there's a lot of joy and beauty in the caregiving piece.
Yes.
If you can get through the fatigue and
the hurt
and the hurt and the overwhelm,
right? And somebody on our side saying something that they would never have said before. I mean, my greatest fear is that I'm going to talk badly to a family member that has been so good to me during this time. And so I don't think anybody means to do it, but it does hurt. And there are ways to kind of work through that.
You're right, because I was a caregiver, care partner. I'm trying to use that word, care partner, for my dad. And it took, the first half was traumatic because lack of awareness. And then once I started focusing on what my father could still do, and then that he could still laugh and I could sing with him, and there were so many things, different, I started enjoying creating those moments of joy, it became a different journey altogether. So I think I completely get what you're saying. I think, Kat, you talked about actionable hope. What do you mean by that? Can you say a little bit more about that?
Well, you can't, I mean, to take steps to try to make it as best as possible. And again, that could be learning more about the disease, creating friendships, a new support group, not just sitting at home and, festering in the negative and wishing it would go away, wishing they were the same, trying to work through that you feel better somehow. Both of the relationship can be better. And I have tried to, I've learned so much about myself caring for others along this way, right? Yes.
And perhaps if someone sees Kat and I, I'm 78 years old, it sees Kat, and she's much younger, and sees that Kat and I are starting a business called Dangle Dot, DangleDot.com, by the way, please. If they can see that someone that really is not always put together, right? That we can still do that. I can still do this. Now, would I do it without Kat? No. Everybody needs a cat.
But this is that care partner relationship. And this is why we wanted Dangle and Dot, where the dangles represent the people living with, and the dot is the caregiver. And together, it's just, it has to be this relationship.
Right.
Of both of you doing the best you can. And I guess that's why everyone's going to the word partner, because it values the individual as well, of both of you.
Yeah. And as you change, then you adjust. And if you don't acknowledge, then you don't have that in your lexicon. Right. And so it's about early diagnosis. It's about going to support groups. And I highly recommend support groups that allow people with and people that are caring for to be in the same group. Now that can't always be. I mean, nothing is in cement that is always, but that can't always be, cannot. But if it can be, I have learned so much about caregivers in the groups that I have attended that have said to me, whoa, Nancy, don't be thinking that way. That ain't right, right? And those caregivers come in and sometimes they're angry and sometimes they're so hurt and sometimes they're joyful and tell a funny story. And it is the learning and compassion that we gather from one another, right?
And then finding ways to still see the spirit of the person in front of you, right? That true soulful person, real being that you're caring for, communicating with in these groups, and come back to what we all have in common, those fundamentals of laughter and joy. It can be found even in the fog of dementia, so I don't know, it is
it's not something you would choose.
No.
Give me that. But everybody does have something, and so we need to take that into consideration, that this is just the lot that I have been given, and I can choose to smile through it and find the up. In every down there's an up. Find the up road, and it just makes life easier.
Right.
And I think it's really a life lesson for all of us, focusing on your, shifting your focus from your disabilities to the abilities, that what you can, and then everything changes. And it's like you said, you took the wrong turn, it seemed like, and then suddenly, whoa, you suddenly found yourself doing great things that you may not have imagined before.
Never have done. And I still, when people say poet, I still sort of go.
I want to talk about that, your poetry. So Blue River Apple.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
Well, Blue River Apple were the three words. It's a process of elimination. Kat will correct me if I say this wrong. She's the expert. But it is a process of elimination as to whether you have a diagnosis of Alzheimer's or dementia of some sort. So if they gave me a long litany of things that I needed to do, and one of them was to remember these three words, and then they go off and have you spell world frontwards and backwards, and all of the stuff
on the memory test.
All the memory test.
I will fail that, I'm telling you.
No, but I know.
Yeah. Yes. And so it's just another way of a cha-ching, oh geez, I really didn't do good. So that was the name of the book, is Blue River Apple. And I have three of them. The first one, an exploration of Alzheimer's through poetry. So that's the first year of my life after diagnosis. The second book is a continuing exploration of Alzheimer's through poetry. And that is the second and third years of my life. I've changed between the first book and the second book. And then I have a third book. So it is, and I go back, Geeta, and I look at some of those pages and I read the poems and I don't remember writing them. Yeah. And so, and somebody else say, well, can you read I can't memorize it. I have to read them. And sometimes I don't recognize the name. And it's like, and I just go by the seat of my pants, honestly. I just, can't do that. Thank you. But I will be happy to look it up and read it for you. It's, you just make do. And one of the doctors that I have, he says, you've learned how to work around. And I said, I really have. It takes me 10 times longer to do anything that is paperwork and all of that. But where there's a will, there's a way. And if you want to do it, you just dig in and you do it. And so I dig in and I do it. It ain't always easy. But then what is?
Yes. Tell us about Gifts of Hope. That was...
I have a writer friend, Stephen Murray. He writes beautifully. He has 5 books. And he and we did together a fun project of learning. He came to me and said, let's do love letters. And I don't know if you're aware of love letters, but it is a 2-person play. And it is no memorization, because I was not aware of love letters. And I said, well, Stephen, I couldn't memorize, And he said, no, you don't have to memorize. It's two people. They grew up together and they're writing letters throughout their life and they never quite make it together. It doesn't work out that way. And we had such fun that when we got done with that, I said, we ought to write one about Alzheimer's, a caregiver and somebody walking with Alzheimer's. And we have done that, and we're getting in somewhat of the final stages of it, and we hope to put it out, and we will do it, and then we hope that perhaps other people will want to do it, and proceeds will go to Alzheimer's causes. So it is just something that we've written together. We've worked hard on it, and we're hoping that it has legs, that people will find it informative, a little, humor in it, and walk away thinking, wow, that was worth the hour and a half or 2 hours that I stayed to watch it.
Well, with you in it, I expect nothing less than humor. It has to have absolutely. So I will look forward to it. Do you have a timeline when it might come out?
Well, we need somebody to push us a little bit. We really do. But we had set it aside. It's been a tumultuous year. And we had set it aside for that, but we're picking it up this next week. So, and then we'll have perhaps a playwright. We're looking for someone that wants to look it over and give us their purview of it. We have done it in front of family and friends, and so we're right there. We're right there. Thank you for asking.
So I want to know from both of you about Dangle and Dot, how that came about, and what is the mission, and what have you been doing, and what are some of the services that people can expect from Dangle Dot?
We're very excited.
We are excited.
So I can remember vividly the day that it happened. It's like, yes, the universe collided. And Nancy and I were at a same event, and we were outside. The sun was shining. It was a beautiful moment to us. Nancy comes with all her energy, and she's like pointing at her ears with all this. Kat, we have to do something about this. And I said, do something about what? And I was like, you have 2 different earrings on. She said, exactly. She had, not on purpose maybe, but put on 2 different earrings, and she was loving either the looks she got or the comments she got.
And I thought, hey, you know what we could do?
We could talk about dementia.
Yeah, when somebody says, oh, and my kids did it too. They put their hand across the table, and they, in individual times, and Mom, do you know that you've got 2 different earrings on? And I said, yes, I did. Thank you. Yes, I did. So it gives, and then you can say, oh gosh, I do it on purpose now. But it gives us a chance to talk about Alzheimer's and get in a conversation. So, and it works.
Yes.
And so that's how it started.
And then I'm sure it's a trend now.
Yes. Well, it's
we
going
hope
to be. Yes, for sure. And we wanted, again, have the dangles represent the people, as she says, with the tangles. And then and the dots to represent the solid, I've got you caregiver. So, but the real mission behind the business is, again, to show people what they're capable of instead of what they're not. And starting with our co-founder, who's starting a business in the midst of having dementia, I think is a powerful statement alone. That together we are business women, and we are, out to show people that they can still do things. And our real hope is to include people living with dementia in the production of our business.
And doing how well they can do as it changes, then what they do with us changes also. It's not like, well, now you can't do this, so you're no longer here. It's like, we're going to change with the people. If I had to go out and start a business by myself, I would not be able to do that. But I'd certainly be able to stand next to Kat, and actually, as she was, vacationing here not too long ago, I was in business meetings learning business plans and all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, it's like, it puts a different connotation to it, perhaps a better one, because we really are in tune to one another. And when we need help, we bail each other out. So we're giving back.
I mean, that's how life is supposed to be, right? You help each other and you take help when you need it, and you don't have to do everything alone. And you change as you grow. Your needs are different. You may be not able to do some things that you did before.
Right.
That's an amazing.
Yeah, but to realize it's okay to change, right? And be accepting of what you are right now today. And here, gosh, but these are, instead of so much focused on what you can no longer do, let's focus on maybe some ideas you can do. And really, honestly, we want to monetarily reward people for their time. So it's not, that you're contributing. You truly are contributing.
Because we've all tied into money, right? I mean, we can't live without it. So that kind of ties up with our own personal persona of who am I? Importance, right? And so if we can supply them with a little of that, and then they have to feel good that they're helping others, and it's a community of warm and fuzzy. And no, it's not always pretty, and no, it's not always a happy place, but we pass over those quicker and faster, and
that's
we move along.
That actionable hope, right? Taking steps toward doing things rather than sitting and waiting for things to decline. So,
and I think I'm doing better today than when I first got my diagnosis. And that's because I've been extremely active. So you have to do the work. You got to change what you're doing, because most of us weren't eating right, and most of us weren't exercising. A lot of us were, but it's you can't sit back and expect somebody else to do it, Geeta. You got to get up off the chair, right? And participate. Yeah.
And also you cannot get better results by doing the same thing, right? You have to do something different.
Yeah. What were you going to say?
I know I was going to say, and I'm sure, people watching always do this, because everybody, when Nancy goes away, people whisper in my ear, does she really have Alzheimer's? I hear it all.
Yes, Nancy.
Right. Yeah. And because this is what we need to help dispel some stigma around a diagnosis. Because what we're given a lot of times is sort of this end stage view.
Yes.
And we can't skip to that at this point, right? So there's a lot to be done in the meantime and in the everyday. And so Nancy is just that beautiful example of, hey, wait a minute.
Here I am.
Let's not quite go there. So we really are proponents of an early diagnosis. While you're capable of making decisions for yourself, before any apathy may set in, and depression around a tough diagnosis is a good time to kind of start talking about it and working together.
So can you tell us about the support groups? I think you have meetings a couple of times a week.
Kat and I have dementia conversations with Nancy and Kat, and it is a unique, and we don't really call it a support group, but it's a unique group of people, both caregivers and people that are walking through the uncharted waters. And what we learn, and it's open dialogue, and nobody takes the spotlight, everybody just adds to and gives their opinion, and we always have the learning circle at the end, which says, what's your takeaway today? What is it that you walked away with from this experience? And we have yet to be disappointed, because every time people are very pleased that they came and spent an hour and a half with us. So that's on Fridays. If anybody can join, it's a Zoom call.
Yeah, you will see me soon.
Oh, good. And how?
And then, that's through Dementia Friendly Nevada. but it's open to everyone. And then another thing that we're heavily involved is Reimagining Dementia.
Oh my gosh.
A coalition, and
creative coalition for justice. And it's about aging, but it's also about dementia and being able to do funny things and act crazy and be okay about that and laugh.
And really dispelling the stigma.
Yes.
Is really truly where they're after. To be, you know, people living with dementia are active people in our society, should be included. It's
and there's a lot of
inclusive environment. Let's create a world that accepts all, really, and is inviting. So it's a very fun place to be. Very creative people on a mission.
Yes, and Reimagining Dementia is a really safe place for people who can't always get to where they say. I mean, I'm always saying, oh gosh, I can't get there. You know, I got the wrong day or the time or whatever. And, you know, it's excusable. There's no, you know, we're so busy judging everybody else. Gosh, I hope someday we'll be way, way past that, because, you know, nobody makes mistakes on purpose, right? I mean, nobody wants somebody to roll their eyes or to be angry with them or, so anyway, it's that Reimagining Dementia, go online. And we've come up with a song, with a video about dementia and reimagining dementia. Just imagine that, if we could think differently about it. And another organization that we're involved in is Dementia Action Alliance. And they have many things for caregivers and many programs for people with Alzheimer's and dementia. And so there's places out there to go, but lots of times you don't hear about them, right? Because you're not looking or you don't know, right? I never got word at the time of diagnosis that I had options or even what it was. So we just have to get that out. So we really thank you, Geeta.
Yes.
We thank you for having us, because
well, thank you. So you also mentioned, you know, you mentioned Dementia Action Alliance. Yeah, I'm a big fan of.
Are you? Yes, they're nice.
It's amazing the work they do, and again, you know, it's every meeting of theirs is eye-opening to me, because they're run by people living with dementia.
Right.
And they do such a wonderful job. You also mentioned Cleveland Clinic, right? So what's the work that you do with them?
It's amazing that we have a Center for Brain Health Research and Care in Las Vegas, of all places. It just doesn't seem like it goes with the theme. For me, it was pretty amazing that it came into being in the city that I had chose to live in. But the Cleveland Clinic, from Cleveland Clinic, Ohio, with the, I guess, strong power of a man that lived in Las Vegas, whose father had Alzheimer's disease, and he watched the decline of his mother caring for her. He had realized he had to go out of town to get any care. So he set out on a mission to create a clinic here, and was able to even partner with the Cleveland Clinic to have a big reputation. And even the building is designed by the famous architect Frank Gehry, as a symbol of hope and real care. And we have a beautiful model of care, because we care for caregivers as much as we care for the people living with dementia. All the resources for the family is free through our fundraising abilities. But we also do research.
Where is this? Is this in Las Vegas?
Yes.
It's in Las Vegas. Okay.
Cleveland Clinic, Lou Ruvo Center for Brain Health.
Yes.
Wow.
They do fabulous thing. They have fabulous doctors. I just want to say, yes.
So that's where I'm employed.
So I think we've been receiving some comments and questions. I want to go to that. But before that, I want to mention one of your videos. I watch your videos, those little clips. Happy. So there's one about, I want to mention that as, is it a weed or a wish? I don't know. So I think you talk about dementia, how dementia can be lonely. And so we talk about bringing people together. So can you talk about that video if you
yeah, well, we were in your yard and we had a dandelion that we found, and we decided, are we going to make it a weed or a wish, right? Of course, we're wish people.
Yes.
But we do wish that people who find themselves in this world of dementia
or question,
yeah,
you know, because, you know, sometimes you may think that you have a problem and therefore you're going to, you know, walk around the problem forever. Find out, because lots of times it is not a diagnosis, it's something else.
But it can feel really lonely, yes, especially initially. You can really feel lost and alone, and lots of hard, you know, really emotions that are
sad,
hard. But we have found through connecting with others, educating yourself, being able to work through the acceptance part a little bit, and how are you going to work around what's the brand name?
Yeah, no, you know, if you take any diagnosis, well, you know, cancer, whatever, diabetes, whatever, if you take and ingest that and become that, it's far more difficult to climb out of that. Yes. So that's kind of what we're saying about, you know, we talk about some hard subjects because we want you to know that we're aware of them, but we can sort of maneuver in between, and you know, we're just normal people. So if we can do it, you can do it.
So I'm going to hand this conversation over to Shri, but before that, you know, there have been so many great points that you brought up. So can you just like highlight some? What would you like to say to people, both people living with dementia and their care partners? What are some of the key principles, you know, that they can, like their Bible, that they can just walk with, you know, along this journey?
I would say, from someone walking through uncharted waters, that the key thing is to not lose yourself. The key thing is to know that you are still you. And I have found it very difficult at times, because when I think I'm doing so well, I mentioned it earlier, then that's the time that I usually do something that's just crazy, right? And I get lost and go around the same block 1,000 times and you know, and make myself 20 minutes late. And if you're late, that was not who I used to be. And so it's been a hard thing for me. So I think to be easy on yourself and to be open to receiving help, because lots of people don't want to receive help. What would you say?
Yes. And
what about caregiving?
Yeah, well, then how to do caring well. I've done it caring poor, I will say. Sort of more of the martyr style of caregiving really doesn't work. It is something that you need support. You need to figure out who those supports are. They might not be your family members sometimes. Yes. You need to find ways of being a creative caregiver. And most importantly, you need to care for yourself. And this is the step that I see most caregivers overlook. They need that time to be good.
It's
okay. You cannot pour from the empty cup.
Yeah.
And
that's really, really, really true.
Yes.
You know, if you're on an airplane, you take that air supply and put it on you first so that you can handle.
She was a flight attendant, by the way.
Late in life, I had a great time.
I imagine you having a great time doing anything.
Yes, that's our point. We can still be in this position. You know,
I imagine her turning weeds into roses.
I try. And I'm not always successful.
Both of you. Thank you so much. It's been such an inspiration for me. And I hope to keep in touch with both of you. And
let's do that. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And now, Shri, you want to take over and...
Sure. Yes. So thank you, Nancy and Kat, for an extremely engaging and insightful talk that we had today with Living Well with Dementia. So your energetic enthusiasm. I got this on Dangle Dot. You wanted your energetic enthusiasm, optimism, and experience, truly to empower. It actually truly empowers all of us. You dare to do dementia different, live life well with purpose for longer. Right. So you are indeed a dynamic dementia duo. So thank you. Thank you. So thank you, Geeta. As always, you bring out the best in every conversation. So thank you. So in our time with Nancy and Kat today, we discussed about living well with Alzheimer's and how Dangle Dot is empowering everyone to learn and to embrace and skillfully navigate the challenges of dementia. So much stigma, fear, and misunderstanding continue to be associated with aging in general, and a diagnosis of dementia more specifically. Yet persons living with dementia like Nancy and dementia advocates like Kat have begun to challenge these stereotypes by speaking out and sharing their stories so that we might better understand how they experience dementia. So one thing that caught me again in your readings was embrace the unembraceable, right? So this is what Nancy and Kat inspire us to do. And so at Amicus Brain is here to support at every step of the route in the life of people who are living with dementia and their caregivers or care partners. I should say. So our AI advisor apps provide the knowledge, the advice and resources that they need, and a safe and a private community that there's always one place available where you can exchange privately, safely, and securely. So please check out our website, amicusbrain.com, where you can click on request a demo of our solutions. So now let's take some questions for our speakers, Nancy and Kat. So there's one question. So how do we help make the journey from being utterly lost, defined upon getting the diagnosis, to I am the same person, I have a purpose, so that into a set of a repeatable practice that many people can follow?
It is a difficult step. For myself, I was helped by those words that were coming down, and I was writing it on a pad every day, and I did that for years. So everybody has a different way of doing that. I would say, though, be very due diligence in picking up a book, reading articles, going to places, if you have something like Cleveland Clinic or places that you can go and that they're known for their neurological expertise. And don't be afraid of what you're going to hear, because there's so many workarounds. What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, you can really feel isolated, both caregiver and person living with at the beginning. And I just want to emphasize there is so much support, more so than ever in this space, certainly compared to when my dad had Alzheimer's disease. We really had not the internet, we had nothing, had not a diagnosis, we had no association, there was no support. But that has dramatically changed with all these groups and connections.
And Zoom, you can get on Zoom, and you can come to dementia conversations. You can come to dementia conversations on Fridays from 1 to 2:30 Pacific time. And you don't even have to speak if you don't want to. If you want to just listen, nobody requires you to speak. You can just listen. And that was primo for me. So
how do we get a link to that, the conversation? How is that, do we need to subscribe to your newsletter or something?
Oh, no. This is through Dementia Friendly Nevada. I'll do my best to put it in the chat if we have time.
Sure.
Don't mess us up. I'm going to cut us off accidentally. Whirling around.
So while you're doing that, is there another question?
Yes. So yeah, specifically for Nancy, I know. So at the beginning phases of your diagnosis, where did you get the information about, Alzheimer's and dementia? Where did you seek?
You know who was most helpful for me in those days was the Alzheimer's Association Desert Southwest chapter here in Las Vegas. And I went to them and they opened their arms to me. And from the first words that I heard from some of them was that I was high functioning. And I dropped my lower lip and thought, what is that? So I came home and said to my kids, I was called high functioning today. But I will tell you, though, that I just kept inquiring, and they will help you, and they are everywhere. You can go to Alzheimer's Association.org, and again, there are references online, but you also can call a helpline and get help if you need. So those are the things that I did. I was tenacious. I never stopped. It was never, so I don't know about people that are so overwhelmed with the words that they're being told. I was not that. When they wanted to give me pharmaceuticals, I said, "Ooh, not yet. No, I don't know enough." And so, I've always sort of been out there a little bit, and you would never know that in younger life, I would never have stood up in front of anyone and spoke anything. And boy, today you say dementia and I'm popping right up. So it changes you. Am I changing for the best? How do you know if you don't give it a try?
Okay. Great. Thank you. One more question. Have you found any technology that helps you in your daily life? So do you use any sort of technology?
I know people that use a lot. I use a telephone a lot. I put my schedules on it and I write them down and put them on the wrong day. And technology for me helps, and lots of times it doesn't help because I'm two bubbles off plumb when I'm doing it. I don't know. But a lot of people use AI, the Alexis form of saying, please help me take my pills, and I need to know at 12 or 1 or whatever it is. There are a lot, some of the organizations that we mentioned originally, they have programs on that. Dementia Action Alliance are into technology and ideas. So they do, and Reimagining Dementia has, and Alzheimer's Association has. I think you can find it a lot. You have to be a warrior of determination, right? And I know, because it's so easy sometimes to just say, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Or somebody in your household says, you know what, it isn't important. Oh, my daughter, Mom, you're 70 years old.
But I think, since we're talking to technology experts, if there is a way, there's the desire to use technology for certain, but for people living with dementia, I could see if it could be some more simplified.
Yes.
For it would be easier. I can see when the laptop gets open and there's ads and there's all this extra visuals going on,
it gets difficult for people to hone in.
When an ad pops up that you have to get rid of, and while you're trying to focus on this next step, I could see how that could really
it does
be helpful.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
There are times that I have looked at the computer and I don't know what a button does. It's a sobering moment. However, I just keep at it. Takes me longer, but I just keep going.
And
so
we're hoping you ladies are going to create a simpler solution.
Yes, for sure. For sure. Yeah. They're working on it though. And I think that's maybe new, that there's lots of talk about making it simpler. What can we do to make it simpler? If you have an idea, send us.
Sure. Yes, we are all about, having the technology help the persons living with dementia and their care partners, and making it as simple and secure. So yes, so we'll probably take another opportunity to share what we have from our technology suite.
Yeah. Yes. We're all solution oriented, as you use that word, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Nancy and Kat, if you don't mind, Sri, I'm interjecting because it's a perfect segue. I do want to reinforce that invitation. As I listened to you, I saw such great alignment between your, aspiration to transform or reimagine the caring, or reimagine the disease itself. So we would love to take some, I know this is recording, so we'll reach out and show you what we have got and, what more we can do. So
that would be great.
Yeah.
That would be great. Love to be in on that.
So Nancy and Kat, you and we have had Peter Berry. So we have had amazing examples of how person living with dementia, even with the diagnosis, have transformed into incredible advocates. My passion is, you are so few. How do I make all of you available to the world? There are millions and millions of them. And I think that's where the technology and, us and we and you can partner, so we can carry forward your actionable hope, your voice to millions of people whom you'll never meet, but they will benefit from your wisdom.
That is the key.
Right.
That is the key. So many more people know today than knew back with our fathers. So we see it. It's slow and moving, but it's about getting people to watch what you're doing here today. And that's why we're so grateful that you invited us on, because if you get people listening to you, and then we get people listening to us, and we'll put it on our website. And so it is the interaction and the camaraderie between all of us that says, hey, we're not in competition. We're trying to figure out a problem together.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I just had someone come to me like last week, very distressed about, they think their husband has dementia, and there was this, there's nothing you can do, like statements coming out of her. And I was like, okay, whoa. Yes. No, okay, this is difficult to accept, definitely, but there are things you can do.
Yeah. So we're all joined in the same mission. We got inspired by what Geeta's journey, and Geeta has brought, all of you into our sphere. And I truly hope that we will be able to collaborate. I've written lots of notes as you were talking about it, and we help facilitate, carry your messages to people whom you will never ever meet, beyond Las Vegas, beyond the US.
Sure.
There are so many millions of Indians, right? For example, which is where we are from. They are also going through, and there is even more stigma associated there. And Sri will, we will reach out to you and find some time and demo what we have and how we can make that even better, and find a way to carry your voice forward to the far reaches of the globe. That's only way technology can do.
Yes, good. So I hope everybody will visit our YouTube channel. We're most proud of our YouTube channel because we have done it all ourselves, where we film everything, we edit, we try to upload it.
Humbly, we bring it before you.
So we hope somebody will enjoy it that way.
Yeah, and maybe take something away from it. So yes, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. Back to you, Sri and Geeta. Geeta, thank you.
Yeah, I think we have no more questions. So any, Geeta, you want to say, or any last words from Dangle Dot.
Well, we're most grateful when, minds and hearts and, we just are caring people want to make it better for everyone. Yes. And we all want to do dementia different. I know if you've spent any time in this space. Yeah, and we appreciate this opportunity.
Yes, absolutely, we do. So tune in to dangledot.com, dangledot.com, and watch us and let us hear from you. And we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much, and I will look forward to your videos.
Okay, thank you.
And they make them so happy. They make everybody so happy. So it's nice.
Okay.
It's not, dementia is not so gloomy and hopeless anymore. It gives people hope. So thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Have a powerful day.
And thank you for using your wisdom and voice. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.